gauchos, and the rest just sit around and listen to Rakid's sermons. Both jugs were empty. Colonel O'Leary, as befitted his junior rank, picked them up. After a good-natured wrangle with von Schlichten, Blount handed the colonel his credit key. The merchants in the north don't like us. Besides spoiling the caravan trade, we're spoiling their local business because the land-owning barons who used to deal with them are now dealing directly with us. At Skilk, King Firked's afraid his feudal nobility is going to try to force a Runnymede on him, so he's been currying favor with the urban merchants. That makes him as pro-Rakid and as anti-Terran as they are. At Krink, King Jonkvank has the support of his barons, but he's afraid of his urban bourgeoisie, and we pay him a handsome subsidy, so he's pro-Terran and anti-Rakid. At Skilk, Rakid comes and goes openly. At Krink, he has a price on his head. Jonkvank is not one of the assets we boast about too loudly, Hideyoshi O'Leary said, pausing on his way from the table. He's as bloody-minded an old murderer as you'd care not to meet in a dark alley anywhere. We can turn our backs on him and not expect a knife between our shoulders anyhow, von Schlichten said, and we can believe, up to 80% of what he tells us, and that's 60% better than any of the other native princes, except King Kakad, of course. The Kragans are the only real friends we have on this planet. He thought for a moment. Miss Quinton, are you doing sociographic research work here in addition to your X-Rights work? He asked. Well, let me advise you to pay some attention to the Kragans. You'll only find them treated at any length at all in that compendium of misinformation. Willard Stanley-Browne's short sociographic history of Beta Hydra II, and 90% of what Stanley-Browne says about them is completely erroneous. Oh, but they're just a parasite race on the Terrans, Dr. Paula Quinton objected. You find races like that all through the explored galaxy. Pathetic cultural mongrels. Both men laughed heartily. Colonel O'Leary, returning with the jugs, wanted to know what he'd missed. Blount told him. Ha! She's been reading that thing of Stanley-Browne's, he said. What's the matter with Stanley-Browne? Paula demanded. Stanley-Browne is one author you can depend on, O'Leary assured her. If you read it in Stanley-Browne, it's wrong. You know, I don't think she's run into many Kragans. We ought to take her over and introduce her to King Kakad. Von Schlichten allowed himself to be smitten by an idea. By Allah, so we had, he exclaimed. Look, you're going to Skilk in the next week, aren't you? Well, do you think you could get all your in-jobs cleared up here and be ready to leave by 0800 Tuesday? That's 4 days from today. I'm sure I could. Why? Well, I'm going to Skilk myself with the armed troop ship Aldebaran. We're stopping at King Kankad's town to pick up a battalion of Kragan rifles for duty at the polar mines where you're going. Suppose we leave here in my command car, go to Kankad's town, and wait there till the Aldebaran gets in. That would give us about 2 to 3 hours. If you think the Kragans are pathetic cultural mongrels, what you'll see there will open your eyes. And I might add that the nearest Stanley-Browne ever came to seeing Kankad's town was from the air, once, at a distance of 4 miles. Well, they live entirely by serving as mercenary soldiers for the Uller Company, don't they? More or less. You see, when we came to Uller, they were barbarian brigands, had a string of forts along caravan roads and at fords and mountain passes, and levied tolls. They raided into Konkrook and Keegark territory, too. Well, we had to break that up. We fought a little war with them, beat them rather badly in a couple of skirmishes, and then made a deal with them. That was before my time when old Jerry Kirk was Governor-General. He negotiated a treaty with our king, bought their river sports outright, and paid them a subsidy to compensate for loss of tolls and raid spoil, and agreed to employ the whole tribe as soldiers. We've taught them a lot. You'll see how much when you visit their town. But they aren't cultural mongrels. You'll like them. Well, General, I'll take you up, she said. But I warn you, if this is some scheme to indoctrinate me with the Uller Company side of the case and blind me to unjust exploitation of the natives here, I don't propagandize very easily. Fair enough, as long as you don't let fear of being propagandized blind you to the good we're doing here, or impair your ability to observe and draw accurate conclusions. Just stay scientific about it, and I'll be satisfied. Now, let's take time out for lubrication, he said, filling her glass and passing the jug. 2 hours and 5 cocktails later, they were still at the table, and they had taught Paula Quinton some 20 verses of The Heathen Geeks They Wear No Breeks, including the 4 printable ones. End of Chapter 4. Recording by Acacia Wood.